This is good. This is always the exciting time of the year. And this is really where we find out physically, the guys that can play some ball a little bit, or at least where it begins. This is good. We're ready.
A couple on the injury front. Vitae pulled up the other day and set out. Just wanted to check in, make sure that wasn't the back that cost him last season.
Yeah, he actually took a shot in the back more than I got torqued, whatever. He kind of got so he was just a little sore. He'll be back out there today. See what he does. He'll have some limited reps, but he's back.
And then, any more clarity, I guess, on CJ and maybe like a timetable when he might be back on the field for you?
No, not yet. I mean, he's improving. I'd say that for really all three of those guys, he, Marvin, J-Mo, they're improving. It's just, I know they won't be out there today, and I think it's kind of day-to-day at this point. What's that?
Is Mosley still gone?
He'll be back. What is the day? Friday. He'll be back Monday.
Did he have a second surgery?
I don't want to answer that.
And then you talked about the pads. What do you look for first day of pads from you guys, and what's important, I guess, just sort of the first day out?
I think really it's all the things that we've been teaching in individual, the group settings, the fundamentals, techniques. You're doing all that without pads, and you want to see nothing should change now with the pads, I guess is kind of the point. So they've been taught the foundation. All right, well, now you've got shoulder pads. And honestly, that's the biggest difference is shoulder pads, right? We wear pads in our pants. That's for protection. The pads, though, up top is to be able to use those a little bit. They're protection, but you use them too. So you're just looking to see that fundamentally, man, are these things carrying over into pads? I think or is it just all, it doesn't look anything like what they've been taught over the spring and then the first 4 practices, because now it's become, more intense and more physical.
Exciting thing about seeing these guys in pads is the rookies. I mean, just because you don't know how it's going to translate.
Yeah, but I think yes, always, because you want to know what it looks like with better competition and how they react to it. But here's the thing: the bar is very low for the rookies starting today. It just is, because this is the first time they've been in this level of competition in full pads. So I anticipate some of those guys not looking as good, which is fine, because tomorrow they should be better, and then the next time they should be better. So this is their first taste of that. But I think also just any of these young developmental players, the guys that were here last year that were young players, man, you want to see growth. You want to see that they look like they belong. So I think this is good. I mean, this is what football is. You play the game in pads. So.
One more on the injury front. Brian Branch didn't practice on Wednesday.
Yeah, he'll be back out there today.
Is he dealing with anything in particular?
Oh, he's just got a foot. I don't feel like it's serious.
What progress have you seen from Jack Campbell, and do you expect that to change with the pads?
He's growing. He's growing mentally. There's just little details to the game that you see from spring till the first 4 practices. His details have gotten better. His communication's gotten better. He does not make the same mistake twice. So from that standpoint, it's good. I think so he's growing and getting better. I think to that point, I would anticipate, look, he's going to be plenty tough and physical enough, but now here you go, man. First day of pads, you get in there with the ones a little bit. He and Barnes sprinkle in and out where you're going against Jonah, Frank Ragnow, at a second level. So that's going to be a little different. It's a little different than playing Indiana. But there again, it's day one. But there is growth, and you can see it. We can see it, and there's nothing that would tell us that just because we put pads on, it's not going to continue to go that way.
Coach, with the defensive line, talking about development, we've probably seen the least outside investment in the defensive line. What are you looking for those players to develop coming into this season, whether specific players or schematically with that defensive line?
Yeah, I think more than anything, D-line, man, do your job. The fundamentals, the technique need to show up. You know, it's one of the reasons why, you know, we got John Scott here, man. I think everything starts, when you start talking about up front, everything starts with the fundamentals of how you play the position, inside out, and stopping the run. And then you go from there, you build from there as it pertains to pass rush. But I think the fundamentals need to show up. Our hands, our pad level, our strike, our shed, you know, the violent shed. I think that's what I'm looking for, inside out, period. All those guys, do your job, do what you're asked. Because if we do that, we have enough right now. I believe that. It's early, I got it, but we'll see.
Dan, I know it's been a minute, but what do you remember about your first day in pads as a rookie?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. You know, I think rookies burn at such a higher rate. I know I did, you know, because you're trying to prove yourself. You're new, and, you know, you're just trying to figure out, all right, drill to drill. Now we are in pads, and, you know, you're trying to make an impression, but you're also trying to do what your coach tells you to do. You know, and so there's a lot of times, I know for me, I was a little out of control. You know, I was a little out of control. I was on the ground a couple of times, and so everything that I thought I was doing was actually making it worse, right? So you're trying to do so much that you leave the field and you're like, I'm awful. I will never play in this league, you know? But I just remember that. And I mean, I remember the speed of everything, you know, because that's the thing. They've gotten spring, and then really these first 4 days was a different intensity than even spring. And now today is going to be, for the new guys, it'll be a totally different level of intensity. So it'll get on them. It should. But there's nothing like it, though.
How long did it take you to realize, well, I can play in this league, and for some of that to settle down?
I don't know, 4 years. No, it takes a couple of weeks. I mean, it takes 2 or 3 weeks. It did for me anyway, to be like, all right, because there's so much of it from this physical, but the mental too. You're trying to absorb and digest the game plan and all these installs that go in it, and then the fundamentals, the details of each play and what and so then you think too much about all that stuff. Then you forget, you're taking the right step, and you get, your head knocked off because I'm taking the right step, but you forget to be physical and just cut it loose and go, and it's all part of it.
Yeah, speaking of the defensive line, we saw your fondness for Broderick Martin. Just curious your assessment of how he's been now through training camp and what he can showcase over the next few days.
Yeah, he's young, he's raw, and we knew that when we got him. He's young and he's raw, but there again we see improvement. He's got to drop his pads. He plays too high right now, but you can see a guy who's working through it. He's working, his footwork's getting better, and this will be another level of growth for him today. You play high without pads, then you play high in pads, it's going to be even worse. But he knows that, and we just keep hitting him on it. But he's no different than any of these rookies, really. I've seen some growth from spring through the first 4 practices, but he's raw. He's got a long way to go.
Give him a little bit of a taste with the first team on Wednesday. What does a young guy like that have to do that makes you want to see that? And what has he done through these stages that got him that opportunity?
Well, I think he's no different than what we just talked about. We see a guy who we see a level of growth, and then with his size, his length, and his strength, you want to see if you can get him to come along a little quicker. Potentially, I think that's what it is. If we saw a player that up to this point was not growing, and you're afraid he's going to get somebody hurt by being in there, we're not going to do it. Like we know he's going to go in there and he's going to get trucked every play and rolled up, and somebody else is going to fall over him, and then that guy's going to fall. You don't put him in there. But I think we feel like, man, he can begin to at least get a little work in there, because the faster. He can get worked in and have to go through that. And the more that early he gets trucked or gets worked and gets moved, man, it'll be so good for him. For any of those guys, that's the best way to grow is to get exposed, and then you learn from it.
Can I just ask you real quickly about Penne? Just what, I mean, obviously, he's always been, seems like a veteran from nearly day one. What kind of growth do you see from him continually?
I can't say enough great things about Sewell. I mean, he's, there's a reason why he was the first pick we had 2 years ago, because we wanted to build around a guy like him. He's our foundation, man. He's one of those pillars that we talk about. But I mean, he's something else. He's a man on a mission. I feel like we're a team on a mission, but he is a man on a mission. And you talk about being wired right, a guy that comes in every day, puts in the work, and he's got so much ability, but he's got the right attitude too. And I think that's what makes him dangerous if you're the opponent. So he's right where he needs to be. And if he loses, it bothers him bad. And that's what you want, You want a guy who believes that there's no way he should lose any rep, no matter who he's playing. And so he's shown up. He's in shape. He's lean. He's mean. And I'm glad he's ours. Mm-hmm.